Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This time it's gonna be a review of the lists that will be used at the Bloodstorm Return of the Beast event. This is a tournament that will be held on the 15th of May, if I'm correct, here in Eindhoven, and it's one of the tournaments that has less constraints than some of the other Bloodstorm tournaments that we have had in the past. So that means that the rules are not that much strictly applied in terms of list building. So people are quite free to build their lists. There's some hidden objectives, if I'm not even right. There's just open objectives that are already known from the start. So there's an objective that you have to kill your own general. There's an objective that you have to decrease or destroy your own biggest scoring unit, and all kinds of other fun objectives. So the lists that we will be playing with are 3.5K lists, and we will now review the lists. To do this, I brought a friend. This is Paul. Paul, can you say hi? Hey. So Paul has already been a player for a very long time, I believe. He has multiple armies, and he's very eager about the hobby as well. Yeah, so let's get started with it. I have a file that starts with Warriors of the Dark Gods and goes alphabetically back to, well, the first army. So we start with Bart, and well, that's not me, I'm also Bart, but this is a different Bart. So Bart has a Warriors of the Dark Gods army with a Chosen Lord on a Chimera, and then, well, it's mostly a very mobile army, I would say, with just a couple of small pieces. Paul, do you have any thoughts? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I believe it's a really solid list. It has some mobile scoring, it has some very tanky units, and as you mentioned, also the favorite giant. I really like for these side events the giant supplement giants because they give a lot of flavor to the army as well. I think with that we'll just go to the next list. So the second of the five Warriors of the Dark Gods lists. This is a list also has a big block of Envy Warriors, so apparently these are quite popular for this event. Maybe it's because of the rear charge that you have to do with a scoring unit, and then you have Swift Stride on your warriors, but otherwise, this looks like a very mobile list to me. um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you don't see them that often, I believe, mostly because your combat capabilities of your sorcerer are next to meaningless with the Skywheel because it doesn't add anything. So, yeah, for a fun event, it's definitely a good pick, I think. Let's go to the next one. This is your list, I guess. Yeah, I was looking through the lists and then I saw this big block of six wretched ones, and I was like, oh, jeez, this is gonna be an issue to some people. I think you also have quite a decent list. I played with Bright Warriors on the previous Bloodstorm event, and I was quite impressed with them. Just the three bomb save with the spiked shields, it's quite impressive if you manage to stay in combat for a long time. And that is, yeah, 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 with a reroll even, because, well, Warriors. Yeah, yeah, you're, oh yeah, That is true. It's so funny that at 3,500 you sometimes just don't notice that people don't bring certain elements of the game. Like for you, I think AP is a bit of an issue, yeah. Probably not with the Feldrak Elder though, and also not with the Chosen Lord. But the rest of the list doesn't have too much AP, and then you don't have any magic to back it up. So that could still give the opponent the edge in some scenarios. However, on the other side, Warriors is always a really reliable army, so I think you'll be fine. Let's go to Peter Jan. He also has Warriors. He does have magic. He has like the biggest magic that you can get with Warriors with a Wizard Master on a Battle Shrine. I don't know how effective the number 6 spell, the comment from Thaumaturgy, is going to be in 3.5K point games. Because I think that armies are a bit smaller, so maybe people tend to walk away a bit more from comets. But otherwise, I think it's also quite a fun list. It's a bit of a mirrored list with like 2 units of warriors, 2 units of chosen knights, 2 warrior chariots, and 2 warhounds. Do you have any further thoughts, Paul? It's a bit smaller. It's not this one, no. No. This one has Stalker Standard on Chosen Knights and the Wasteland Torch on the other unit of Chosen Knights. Yeah. Yeah. It's a solid list. Yeah. I think the one thing I would be a bit surprised by is the avocation on the sorcerer rather than alchemy with these Chosen Knights and the warriors. Because the warriors can benefit quite well from Word of Iron, and so can the Chosen Knights. But otherwise, I don't. Oh yeah, you get a +2 to hit against him, right? Yeah, he's going to be hit quite easily. But then again, he also dishes out 7 strength 5 attacks. Or, yeah, with lightning reflexes, with high offensive, so he's not going to fool around there. Okay, so let's go to Warriors of the Dark Gods. I really like that he brought a Feldrak Ancestor General to an event where your general has to die. I have played against the Feldrak Elder, and it really enriched my list. Oh dear. Yeah. Because with supernatural dexterity it goes to agility 7, you say? Oh, then it goes to 8 even. Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah, that will definitely do quite some harm. Yeah. Yeah, and then we have the Feldrak units. I always find it funny that if you take a Feldrak themed army, then you don't really play into the strength of Feldraks because they ignore panic tests for anything that is not a Feldrak. So if you have more Feldraks on the board, then suddenly you have to worry about panic tests from Feldraks. Yeah, I think it's funny to see also back the Warriors with Pride. Apparently they got a bit more popular over time. And Chosen Knights with Lust, I see them sometimes, and I don't understand because it's a really big bulky unit, so I can't really imagine that you will ever flee with them. Maybe it's only for the Strider, but I don't know. Yes, and this is the list with oh yes, that's this one. I got a really good option for this unit. It's 50 points for all of them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for example, if you already lose like 3 models and you play them 6 white, and you're paying 50 points for 3 extra attacks, it's not really worth it now. Yeah, I think that is all for the Warriors of the Dark Gods, so let's move over to Undying Dynasties with Almer. He has one unit of chariots, one unit of cataphracts, a colossus with the skills of destiny, and obviously a pharaoh with the general, with Shah Guardian, and everything that you can imagine on the guy. And then still he has a wizard master. He did manage to put in everything in the list that you would want in an army, basically just magic, combat character, and some decent combat units. Do you think he's missing anything? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, these Tomb Cataphracts are just really, really good also. So I think it's a list with really solid pieces. It's quite an elitist list, maybe, but we'll see what opponents are able to do against it. We have another Undying Dynasties list. This is Ortwin's list. I know Ortwin is quite a good player. He also joined to the WTC in Osnabrück, and well, he always plays quite good armies, or at least armies that are quite good in his hands. So I'm curious to see how he's gonna tackle this event. I think the 30 skeletons in core they are there so that the Necropolis Guard is not his biggest unit, or at least it's tied for it. And yeah, yeah. Yeah, basically you have to get rid of the Hierophant in order to make it crumble down, but you have to get there. And he has enough units to make it such that you don't. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think it's also a really good list for in order to defeat the enemy. We'll see how well he does at the objectives that we get at the event. Then we have Harm with Vermin Swarm. I know Harm from the ETC practice days that we have, and this is basically his um, toned down ETC list, I think. So he does play the Ruinous Dictator, he's going to play it at the ETC, is the plan at least. He does have the Doomblade at the ETC. He has big units of Vermin Legionnaires and Black Furs, and then he really likes the Mamilla Brutes. I don't think he's going to play them at the ETC though. But this it's just a really solid list, and he really knows how to use this list. So I think I would also be quite scared of this list, to be honest. Yeah, yeah. Well, the Ruinous Dictator makes everything unstable within 18 inches, or it makes everything fearless, and then if you're steadfast, you're unstable. So you really have to take heavy losses before your units really start to fade away. Or you have to kill the Ruinous Dictator. It's 7 wounds. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, definitely. He and Ortwin can just dish it out. Then that is the only vermin swarm, I think. So we have Iron with Sylvan Elves. Um, yeah, yeah, it's more of the type of list where you just pick one of each unit and then you're happy, and then when you get to the table and you see the enemy army, you might be a bit disappointed sometimes. But yeah, it's a really fun list, I would say. A Tree Father can always do it quite well at these type of events where you have some lower point values. I don't know what the Predator Pennant on the Castrels does. I don't know that much of Sylvan Alpha items actually. I know that the Banner of the Silent Mist lets you redeploy a unit. Um, Otherwise, I don't really see that much that really stands out. And I think it can work quite well if you're quite used to playing Sylvan Elves. Um, yeah, it's about getting the right pieces in the right place. Then let's go to Paul. Paul has a themed list, I thought, because he only brings trees. So the Clearing Spirit upgrade on Dryads, I believe, makes them loose scoring and makes them skirmishers. He has the Avatar, so that's a big tree, and then he has some magical trees, and then he has some small trees, bigger trees, and 2 eagles. I think he's gonna do quite well actually, because these trees they are still quite decent in combat, and I haven't seen that much flaming attacks other than in Warriors of the Dark Gods throughout the event, and I also haven't seen that much like pyromancy or alchemy magic, but I might have overlooked that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think definitely people are gonna underestimate the thicket beasts because also in a wood they are stubborn and they get reroll once to wound or something, or it's uh, it's tough. Then we have Danny with Saurian Ancients. So he brought also magic and some combat and all the good stuff. So is there anything that stands out in this list to you? Yeah, to me they always feel like toned down Chaos Warriors. But then like they have the offensive or the strength and resilience of a Chaos Warrior. They still have armor 4, so a 3-up armor save with Crocodile, I believe. And then in the end, they do quite some damage, but it's mostly the minimized discipline that makes them really last a long time normally. But yeah, 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 yeah. We also have Eric with Saurian Ancients. He didn't take a Quattle Lord, so he doesn't have any magic in his list. He does have 2 Saurian veterans, and they're both, I believe, just on foot, which I find a bit of a weird choice for them, because normally I would definitely mount them just to be able to get your point value out of these models. Some Saurian warriors and well, some supporting pieces. Funny thing here is, in my opinion, that you can really see the difference between taking quite an expensive magic caster and taking just more troops, because this list has definitely more units than the other one. Yes, definitely. Yeah, these. Yeah, like the Shah Guardian that we saw, the Battle Sphinx, the Ruinous Dictator, and all the other stuff. Then we have Nick. Nick is also bringing Saurian Ancients. He also chose to get a Quarterlord, this time with Divination. And he has double Taurosaur, and double Raptor Riders, and then 3 units of Saurian Warriors. I did play against this list with my list, and well, my list makes the matchup a bit different. But it's a really fun list to play against. I find he has two very hard hitting Taurosaurs because on 3.5k they hit really hard. And then the rest of the list is just solid grinding material basically. So it's really a hit or miss with the Raptor Riders whether they make their armor saves or they don't. And if they do, they're really going to last a long time, and if they don't, it's going to be a short game.
Yes, I was wondering where what the Lord was going to go. It has only 15 supreme villages, and it's in the
Yeah, in my game he was just joining a unit of Saurian warriors and just there. It's like by the time you get to the Saurian warriors, it's over anyway. So yeah, whatever. But I think it's also dependent on the amount of shooting and magic opponents have. Like if anyone doesn't have any ranged attacks, then you can just run the Quarter Lord on its own. Then we have Robin. Robin also fields Saurian Ancients. It's funny how much variety there is in the Saurian Ancient lists, I think. You do see quite some Quarter Lords, but you also see a Magicalist list. And this list is quite different from the others that we saw, I think. Because you have the two units of Sentries, you have two Salamanders, you do have two Taurosaurs. But the entire setup of the army is completely different from Nyx, and then the other two didn't have any Taurosaurs. Is there anything that stands out to you on this one?
and maybe in the end, the lack of big blocks. It has a very little rank bonus, solid rank bonus that's going to last long enough.
Is that not something that Saurian Ancients always misses a bit? I mean, you can get like 30 Saurus Warriors or 40 Sking Braves, but because the Sking Braves, they still have two Caimans also with them, so in the end they're like 30 models.
Yeah, but if the big guys die, you have nothing left.
Yeah, that is definitely true, yes.
It will last longer. They don't die very quickly because of their high armor.
Yeah.
And this list lacks a bit of that.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Yeah, that is generally a problem with Temple Guard, right? Like you want your Quarter Lord in there, but then you want your Temple Guard to fight, and you want your Quarter Lord not to fight. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really work in that way. Stein is also bringing Saurian Ancients. I really like the fact that he brought an Alpha Carnosaur, and then he has two units of 4 Amphion Riders. I was like, oh Stein, oh. They are really, really good against the targets that you want to go against.
And that makes up the character points.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good thing that the Quarter Lord has to die one game and the Saurian Warriors have to die in a different game. I think also the combination of Divination with the Rampadons works quite well because then you can get no die enemy and get the +2 agility for them. So that they can definitely strike first, even against elves. But then you would have to force through no die enemy. So I would say that would mean 5 dicing with your Quarter Lord, which is sometimes a bit exciting. Yeah. Then we go over to Orcs and Goblins. We have Boss. Do you have any words to say about this list?
It is a good stuff. I like it.
Yeah.
It's not the only list with three giants, but it's supposed to be an orc
Yeah. Yeah. I think he did quite a good job at getting a goblin list that is actually like a really fun goblin list. Like a lot of goblin lists that I see just have minimum units of goblins with like a mad git still, and then two wrecking teams, two pump wagons, three ball throwers. It's like all the special stuff that's not definitely a goblin. It's but I think he did a nice mix of some still quite hard hitting stuff like the cave gnashers and the gnasher herd that is quite big. And I like that he has three giants. And I can imagine that he didn't want to take the wrecking ball because he has taken that for a couple of times and was quite disappointed with the performance of it. But it's fine, boss. You can take just giant clubs and it's fine. That is true. Then we have Jan. Jan is also coming with Orcs and Goblins. I think this is the Jan that is painting a different army each year to bring to Bloodstorm, and this time it's Orcs and Goblins. Um, yeah, I thought last year he was painting High Elves, and now he's painting Orcs and Goblins, and I don't remember what. Yeah, yeah, and then a shaman and a chariot. Was it added on shamanism? I don't know if shamanism is the best lore for orcs and goblins. I have no clue about orcs and goblins, but I think that the Rod of Battle is definitely really good. That is true. And then you can always still go for like the +1 to hit with your Rod of Battle, the reroll to hit from your hereditary, +1 strength and resilience from your number 1 spell. And then if you get the number 1 spell off, then you can only be wounded on a 5-up on your chariot. So that's quite funny, yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Then we have Jeroen. Jeroen is also bringing Orcs and Goblins. Jeroen looked at his cabinet and was like, I want one of this, one of this, one of this, etc. till the end. I don't even think if he has copies of characters like on the same mounts also. Because he has an Orc Warlord, Goblin King on a wolf, then a Witch Doctor on foot, a Witch Doctor on chariot, a Chief. Oh, the Chief is also on foot. Okay, so you have two Goblins on foot. Oh dear, Jeroen, next time. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is definitely a fun list. Just infantry blocks. You're gonna walk around with like two supporting pieces. So I think it's fun. I don't know if it's gonna do quite well, but I think it's definitely fun. Mod is also bringing orcs and goblins. I actually don't know if Mod has an orcs and goblins army or if it's the bunnies that are orcs and goblins. Okay. Oh well. Okay. Yeah. 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 I agree. I agree that nobody really went over the top with orcs and goblins. Then we go to Ogre Khans. So these are the lists with the lowest model count. And I believe Kun has actually the lowest of the event, so with a total of 26 models, if I counted correctly. That's not a lot of models. No. No, it has aspects where you could improve the list, like Orcs and Goblins, or Jesus, Ogre Khans. I believe that normally you really benefit from making your bruiser block quite big because, well, with the great weapons, they tend to die a lot and then they get the strike. And then usually you see people going for like 9 or even more bruisers, and then just a very small tribesman bunker for the shaman. The mercenary vets, they can hold their own. You could put the BSB in there, but I would just run them 6 ideally. Then the bombardiers, I would give them definitely a musician because with the quick to fire, it makes them way better, perform way more reliable. And both the rock aurochs and the frost mammoth, I don't know. I've not seen it that often, so I just don't know.
And what stands out is that the island is and the shades and the ceiling
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe it gives just an extra attack. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's also
but in their list, I think it's also a middle of the pack list.
yeah.
For some people, it's nasty. For some, it's not.
Yeah, I guess some people will just still be really impressed by what kind of damage output a Rock Rocks does on the charge. Give him the charge and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Actually, the next list and the next list is way scarier than this one.
Let's go. It's Mark with Ogre Khans. Yes, I've seen this list. I also really like this list because it is a themed list, because it's the Wild Heart list from Ogre Khans. So that allows your Mammoth Hunter to be the general, and then you have some different core options also. Yeah, I have always said just in the past, like Tusker Cavalry are scary. Tusker Cavalry are good, and then a lot of Ogre players complain all the time. I think Tusker Cavalry are still really good.
They are really good. And against all the others here,
Yeah, 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 because he cannot join a unit, right? But then again, still he has 4 wounds with resilience 5 and something like a 3-up armor save or so, I guess. I don't know. But and he has a lot of potential to just hide his BGP behind other units because, well, the Tusker Cavalry are the same size, so you can quite effectively hide it. I don't understand the wizard adept on pyromancy. Um, Maybe it's for the hereditary and then flaming swords.
it gets pretty spells, so I think there was a big spell.
Oh, the firebrand. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It does give you a way of just clearing chaff with pyromancy, which like you don't want to use your Tusker Cavalry units to mop up a 150 point chaff unit because you rely on your impact hits. So in that sense, pyromancy does make sense. Okay, then we end it with the Ogre Khan lists and we go to Infernal Dwarfs with Maurice. Infernal Dwarfs, I have not played against Infernal Dwarfs that often, and every time I see a list, I see like some characters, some warriors, some Citadel Guards, some Incarnates, and then some artillery, and that's it. And yeah, that's a good, nice balance of stuff, and I never know whether it's really incredibly over the top or whether it isn't. Oh yeah, that's the one that's demon basically, right? That moves around and can still um, hit in combat quite decently.
Yeah, okay. And for the rest, it is
Okay, cool. Then we have Daniel. Daniel is the person who brought, I believe, the only dragon to the event, and then he added another dragon. So he is.
I saw this list, and I'm sorry, Daniel, but your list is the strongest I've seen before many opponents. I've seen this list
So Daniel, hopes are up. If you don't manage, then it's your fault. There we go. Yeah, yeah. But then again, if you just ignore one of the secondary scenarios, it's not too bad of a deal here, because if you do like a 20-0 victory points every single round, then yeah, this 1 point is not gonna matter that much. I did see some artillery pieces in other armies that could still be quite dangerous, especially to the commander, because it has lower hit points. But this ancient dragon at an event like this, I mean, it is 970 points, but still, it's quite a decent monster.
yeah, and it has the Nova flare, so you can basically park it in front of any unit and then put the Nova flare if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Then we have Kirti. Kirti doesn't have any dragons. Kirti has a Reaver Chariot with a commander on it, and I always think every time I see it on the table, like I should take stuff like this more often, like characters on Reaver Chariots or characters on Raptor Chariots, whatever. Because every time I'm like, I don't really want to face this guy because he has impact hits and he can charge far away, and it's basically a buffed up chariot and that's it. But I don't know. I'm always impressed with characters on chariots.
This is a fun list. This is a list I have played if I am playing elves. It's not going to go well against Dwarven list because
Yeah.
but it has a lot of fun choices that you don't see very often.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, still the Grey Watchers, I think they are like a hidden gem in Highborn Elves, and I think that players don't really use them enough because the -1 to hit for your opponent it's just crippling. But it's a fun list. I don't know if he's actually gonna play the commander on the chariot together with the other chariot to form a unit or not. But it's yeah, you could do quite well with this list, but it can also just fall apart quite easily. Yeah. Then we have Sicko. Sicko is also bringing Highborn Elves. He is bringing the Swordmaster gang. Look at that. I don't think I saw this list when I was going through the lists quite quickly. What is quite funny is that he has two commanders with Royal Huntsmen, and I think they're going to go in the Swordmasters. I think this is quite smart, because then if you have any monsters coming into the Swordmasters that your Swordmasters might struggle with, then you still have your commander who can do quite a lot of damage to these monsters. Yeah. But it's going to be a list that is quite vulnerable to shooting and range damage, because basically you have 60 Swordmasters, a bit more. But that's it. It's like a bit hit or miss. Like if you face something that is not good against Swordmasters, then you win, and otherwise you lose. Yeah. Then we go to Empire of Sunstar. So Empire of Sunstar is usually a bit more balanced in terms of list, so it doesn't take one choice 3 times, for example. And this one does. So this is the list that you're really fond of, I guess? No. Yes. Yeah. 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 It's I think with the secondary objectives, it's not really going to do well in that regard because your knight commander has to die, and then your electoral cavalry, they are no longer fearless, and you don't have any discipline anymore, etc. And the electoral cavalry, they're also the biggest unit in the list, so you could just quite easily have just put in a unit of 20 heavy infantry, and then that unit should have to die rather than your very valuable electoral cavalry. I don't know if I would. I think maybe, yeah. Then we have the next Empire of Sunstar. And I don't understand anymore what people are doing to Empire of Sunstar because I personally really rely on the parent support system in Empire whenever I play infantry. People are really fond of state militia apparently for some reason. I think they're cool, but if you go for parent support system type of style lists, then you can get better results normally. And then three Knights of the Sun Griffin, they are decent units. I don't know if I would spend the points for the lance upgrade to get them to a 2-up armor save if you only played 3 of them. But it's, yeah, it's an Empire list. Do you have anything to add, Paul? Okay. I'm missing the artillery maybe, but yeah. Then we have Levi with Empire. He does have artillery, he does have a cannon. I think this was more or less the list that I was writing when I was considering bringing Empire to the event. So a big block of Imperial Guard, big block of Flagellants, and some supporting kind of units. I think it's a really fun list. I don't think it's over the top. Um, but I don't know your opinion.
I think for the Empire list, this one is the strongest list. It's the best at hitting the secondaries.
Yeah.
It has fun elements. It has a game. Like, that's because I have so running in some ways. But it's a good list. But not over the top. I think.
Yeah. I must admit that I also don't like the cannon whilst playing with the cannon because I always misfire on turn 1. So then we go to Dwarvenals. Yeah, dwarves. This is a list with all kinds of different units, like the marksmen, the warriors, the greybeards, seekers. I think this is one of these lists where someone went to his cabinet of models and went like, I want this one and this one and this one, and that's really cool.
Yes, this is a list I like. Maybe the list I like the most. All the lists there are themed lists, but this has a bit of everything and it fits the tournament perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. Good conclusion. Nothing more to say. Then we go to Joris. Joris also brought Dwarvenals. I believe he put a very small spoiler in our WhatsApp group with the 9 Rangers and the small unit of Seeker. No, did he? I think maybe it was someone else. Because there was a snippet with some Rangers, and I saw the Rangers, so I was like, oh, maybe it was this one. Do you think this is a better or a worse list than the previous one?
Slightly better than the previous one. It has a lot of some good choices.
Yeah. Yeah, seekers are always a problem for a lot of people. Ma- Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see how well he will do with this list. Then we have Lewis, and I think Lewis brought quite a decent Dwarven list because Kingsguard are just really solid. And then you have the whole. Lewis, you brought a very strong list, man. I think at least because the old Guardians they are really well. They have offense or strength, resilience 5, I believe, and then yeah, oh yeah, 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 because they are strength 6 and then strength 7 on the charge, right? Damn, that's strong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are, I believe, they have bodyguard for a dwarven king or the general. So maybe one of your king's guard can have bodyguard, but the others will not. I think. No, I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Then we still have Niels with Dwarvenals. He brought 2 big units of Seekers and 2 organ guns, and that's all you need. Yeah, and then a unit, the Greybeards, probably with the King in there. These are some decent units. This is you really have to go hard into these units. But then again, he doesn't have that many units, so it's probably going to be quite easy to pick off the organ guns, I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And generally, with volley guns like organ guns, you face the issue that if you get like a -1 to hit somewhere because of long range or ruins or whatever, then you're gonna not hit that much in the end. And if you have vanguarding seekers, your opponent can just go stand in front of your seekers, and then well, you can either charge with your seekers or you cannot. And if you don't, then your organ guns are gonna shoot less effectively. So yeah, I think it's a list that requires a bit more finesse than people might realize to just bring it to a good end. But getting rid of 1 unit of seekers, that is going to be quite easy as a secondary objective because you just push them forward and you just pray for the best. Then we have Peter with Dwarvenals. Um, he loaded up on artillery. 2 ballistas, 2 flame cannons, 1 organ gun. I think that's a good setup for artillery for Dwarvenals. No, no, you just have to field the 2 flame cannons, and then the rest of the list can still just hold back and wait for the battle to be over. Yeah, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it depends on 1 turn where the organ gun and the flame cannons get to shoot, and if they manage to shoot off the ambushers, then you're done. But otherwise, yes. Yeah. Okay. Tom is also playing Dwarvenals. I think we have quite a lot of dwarfs this event. And Tom brings a lot of Seekers. I think he brings the most Seekers at the event.
Yep.
Also together with an Organ Gun again, but this time no Vanguard on the Seekers. That might actually be better.
I believe so. I think this one is also in line with my list.
Yeah, the trouble with Seekers is not necessarily killing them, it's just not getting killed in the process. But then I read a post online where someone was saying like, yeah, if you just get up your defenses in terms of hitting, then it's manageable. Like if you have distracting and you have high defense, then they only hit you on a 5-up.
It's a big if.
It's a big if. It's a big if. But divination magic with scrying and no die enemy does help there. Then we have my list.
It's a very special list. It's a fun list. I like it for this kind of tournament. I believe this is better than many people think it is. I believe you probably manage more people think you will. But it's fun. It's
Yeah, well, I'm just using 200 Dread Elf infantry models, and I'm saying that they're all spears, and I have about 50 of the spears. So, yeah, it's gonna be a complete mix of Dread Elf models. But there's definitely quite some spears in there, and there's not gonna be any confusion as to what something is, because everything is just the same, so.
maybe you have to paint some banners.
Yeah. For the Banner of Discipline, I have like a special unit filler, and then for the Flaming Banners, I'll take a different unit filler. So then everything is clear, basically.
And you can choose which one is going to die in the secondary.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was thinking of fielding Dread Elves for Bloodstorm, and then I was thinking of all the very nasty shooting that you sometimes see, and it's like, I don't really want to face any of this nasty shooting. I can also just bring a lot of Dread Elves, and then I don't have to worry about it. So that was the main motivation, to be honest.
What list are you scared of? You've seen the lists. What kind of lists?
Well, I was actually looking at one of the Beast Herd lists that has a Jabberwock with evocation magic. Like my general has discipline 9, but then I go to 8 because of the evocation maybe, and then to 7 because of the fear and terror. That is not that nice. Just the terror tests, I can just fail terror tests and flee the battle. And also just very good armor, I don't really like. I think because I only have AP1 and AP2 if I get charged, but not even if I charge. And otherwise, yeah, just stuff like Pyromancy Masters that do damage to every unit within so many inches, and 3d6, strength 6, strength 4. I mean, it's stuff that causes panic tests, that gets my units to like 10 models each or so, because once they're 10 models, they're not gonna really do enough anymore. And ratchet ones, I don't like ratchet ones. Yeah, no, it's more like a fun list than anything else, but I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun just killing my own guys. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Then we have Martyr. I saw that Martyr is quite active on the forum discussing his list and also writing battle reports and stuff. So if you're intrigued, then you should go to the Dread subforum, I think it's in. And then you can find this list online on the 9th Age forum. Do you have any thoughts about the list?
Yeah, one of the battles is against me. We talk about this list. What's in the conflict. It has changed so many times. Once it was ROTB, we took out the nasty elements.
Yeah.
Because Red Elves can be quite unforgiving when tooled up to the max.
Yeah.
I think don't have control, not taking the strongest choices.
Yeah.
The trick in this list is it can assassinate any just to try to get off and try to jump us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it can definitely do that. It's a bit of a MSU list where you don't really have one thing that you should focus on to do well, because all these small units they can still dish out quite hard. Yeah. Yeah. Then we have Marco. Marco is also playing Dread Elves. I haven't looked at this list that much. Yeah, 20 Obsidian Guard with the Cateran's Pennon is always really good. Hydra is always solid. And then the auxiliaries, yeah, they're really good. So it depends what he's gonna face, I think.
Yeah, and this is a list you will see on the net but it has the choices I see a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna do decent at least. Now we have Beast Hearts with Gerard. Gerard is, I think it's a decently balanced army, with just some Wild Ones, with some Raiders, with some Minotaurs, and some Beast Giants. He doesn't have too much ambush, and I always find that a bit of a shame with Beast Herds because that is their thing and it's fun.
Yep, that would be my point exactly. I missed the damage. It's a misfire thing.
Yeah. Then we go to Johan. I looked through this and I didn't really see where he has his main combat power. Like he has the Wild Horns and he has the Longhorns and some Centaurs, but that each of them is not overly big that they can really take out an enemy unit. So you would have to combo charge, and I don't know if that is going to be quite viable for this list. So I think in power level, maybe this one is a bit lower.
I think so too. I think this list it's really
Okay.
then with the magic you can put on the units.
Yeah.
But you have to get combo charges, thank charges.
Yeah.
In order for it to work, the biggest problem is the leadership. It has only leadership 8.
Hey.
The leadership is so going to be split apart quite frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, and because the Wildhorn herd, the bigger and the smaller Wildhorn herd, and the Longhorn herd, they all have ambush. So you're going to be really spaced out on the board, probably. Yeah. Yeah. I like the Jabberwock in the list because you're playing at 3.5k, and the Jabberwock gives -1 discipline, I believe, in addition to the -1 from fear, if you're within 6 inches or something. So that might work out quite well at lower point values. With Avocation, where you can get Whispers of the Veil for an extra -1 discipline. Then we go to Robin with Beast Herds. This is another triple giant list. Hey! So this one has the uprooted trees on the giants, a Gortarch in addition to the giants, then 5 Minotaurs. Yeah, he really went for stuff that can kill quite effectively with the Gortarchs and Beast Giants. And one big unit. Because 6 Minotaurs, because of the Minotaur Chieftain, that is already enough to just ruin anyone's day. Yeah. Yeah, they look a bit like fire and forget missiles, like just Just charge everything in, see what survives, and then yeah, that's gonna be a battle. But it's yeah, that's fine. Looks like a decent list with some decent different things and 3 giants. So what can go wrong? And with that, we actually arrived to the last list. I think that's gonna be it then, Paul. So, do you have any final words to say about the tournament? Do you have any favorites?
My favorite will be still the good
Daniel here. Yeah, the Undying Dynasties one. There you go. Yeah, yeah, it's also really good. It's these Necropolis cards. I have seen them in action, and I've always wondered why not more people play Necropolis card because they are quite good. Yeah. But I spoke to Watman once about it, and I believe he said that they have a bit of an agility issue where either they get the strike and then they murder a lot, or they don't and then they really get murdered themselves. Um, so in that regard, it's quite funny that he didn't take divination once again for no die enemy. But I really think that Harm is also going to do quite well with his Vermin Swarm, also mostly because he really knows the army very well. So, and there's some hidden tricks in the list that I will not spoil, but Harm knows how to play his list. Yeah. With that, I'm gonna thank you for watching, and I will see you on the 15th of May or the next time.